Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elisa Ewan, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations at Teachers College. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our virtual programming featuring alumnus Jhon Velasco. This series is brought to you by the Alumni Relations team as part of TC's Come Together Right Now virtually series. Although many of us are staying at home right now, we are so grateful to our alumni experts who have stepped forward to offer digital programs that will continue to bring the TC community together to learn, share, and connect with one another. Today, Jhon will present Understanding the Power of Om, a guide for beginners. Jhon earned his master's in health education from TC in 2005, where he focused on meditation and other Eastern forms of wellness and healing. He currently works for the National Hemophilia Foundation as a manager of education and training. In addition to serving as an independent consultant, designing and implementing international public health lectures, trainings, and workshops on topics focusing on mental wellness, PTSD, stress management, meditation, motivational speaking, and social injustice. A constant theme in his career has been the development, implementation, and analysis of new and existing public health projects for a variety of global communities, specifically for underserved populations. A common theme among these projects is his commitment to working with individuals and groups to improve their lives through education, mentorship, and empowerment. Jhon is also a certified yoga and meditation instructor and has practiced throughout the Americas, Europe, and Southeast Asia. Jhon has provided some resources which you can download in the handouts pane. If you have any technical issues, please feel free to chat me directly in the chat pane. And without further ado, here's Jhon.
Thank you so very much for that great introduction. It is truly a privilege to be here with you all virtually and to be part of this time where we are still trying to figure out what is going on and how to move forward from here. You know, I, like everybody else, have been working on myself and trying to learn as much as I can about myself where I am today. And this presentation has helped me through some of the dark times. You know, thank you for that lovely introduction. Today we're going to be looking at Om, and we're going to be looking at Om from a specific perspective to try to just understand what is this word, what is this sound, what is this vibration that sometimes that we hear, that we see, and sometimes experience as well. Om is part of a larger conversation for those of us who are exploring the world of meditation, those of us who are exploring the world of the universe, and dare I also say spirituality. So what we're going to be focusing on is just the beginning components of that. I do want to share with you all some personal information. I've been practicing meditation probably since high school. I was one of those lucky kids that used to watch, I was a big nerd, used to watch Channel 13 PBS, and it really exposed me to a lot of interesting education out there besides Sesame Street and the Electric Company. I remember once there was a dark-skinned guy, my color complexion, looked like he was wearing diapers, and he was moving his body into different forms and started meditating. I did not know what this was. But it was actually my first introduction to understanding different ways of well-being without knowing what I was actually learning about, which for me, it's one of those fascinating ways to actually learn about the self and about the world around you. This gentleman was a yogi and had a little program talking about yoga and talking about meditation. And I remember this humming sound that he would do, and I would just mimic it. And as I got older and started going to libraries and understanding what this was and doing some exploratory of the self is when I started to begin this journey of meditation, this journey of yoga, and this journey of Om. As some of you are aware, I am living with PTSD. And if it wasn't for my practice in meditation, and if it wasn't for my practice in oming, I probably would be far back from where I am today, meaning that it's helped me really move forward and push through some of the darkness. So today we're going to be looking at what that is and what that might look like for some of us. So for our agenda today, we're going to start off by talking about what Om is. We're going to talk a little bit about the historical, spiritual context of Om. We're also going to be looking at the different components of Om. And then the last part of this is we're going to be looking at a practice and what does that actually feel like? What does that actually look like? So we'll have an opportunity towards the end. And then of course, we'll have some time for question and answer for everyone. So I'm glad that you're all here. Welcome. Let's get started. So what is Om? And that is like, one of those questions is what is life? It depends on who you ask and where they are with their journey. You'll find that different answer. But what we are going to explore is where are the earliest findings of Om and what does that look like? So here you have 3 ways of spelling the word Om in the English language. But over to the side of your screen, I have depictions of different types of Oms and different types of styles. That Om is more of a Sanskrit Om, which is one of the oldest languages still practiced in the universe. It is the birth of where Hinduism has come from, Hindi specifically, and other languages as well. So you'll see that constantly throughout the presentation. In the written form, in terms of the English form, sometimes we see it as OM, sometimes we see it as OHM, or we also see it as AUM. We'll be talking a little bit more about that third one, the AUM. So Om in its essence is an ancient vibration. It's a sound from which all other sounds and beings emerge. It is the belief and it is the thought that it is the beginning and the ending, that the vibrations and that the sound of Om is all encompassing of all the vibrations in our bodies, all the vibrations in the earth, and the vibrations within the universe. This signifies, for a lot of folks, a supreme power or your higher self. I was born Catholic, and it's interesting as I started going deeper into the studies of Om, the studies of meditation, studies of Buddhism and Hinduism, how everything actually comes together. Sometimes we just have a different word for God, we have a different word for prayer, we have a different word for Amen. So you'll be seeing some of those similarities here. We're not going to get too far deep into the ancient rituals of Om, but I did want you to have a bit of an understanding of what that is. So in essence, just think about Om as a vibration, Om as a sound. We're going to go a little bit more into that. So Om is a combination of 3 letters, right? So we have A, U, M. A represents the physical plane, right? So that sound is the ah sound. We'll get to this later on. So the ah sounds is the physical components of the vibration of what's happening in the body. U, represents the mental, the astral plane, the world of intelligent spirits of all heavens. So when we're going to be looking at that word and when we're going to be looking at the sounds, it's going to go from the physical self to the emotional, spiritual, intellectual self, and then to the last one, which is M, which represents the whole deep sleep state, which is also unknown even in our wakeful state, right? So it is this state of nirvana. It is this state of connecting with the universe or your higher power. So what we see here is that it's a combination of these different vibrations that go out into the universe. It's also believed that if you connect with the universe, you connect with that higher power, then you become one with that energy. You become one with that vibration, which for some people, they find peace in that. For some folks, they find that connection to another energy that brings them joy. Maybe it's that higher self, maybe it's that spiritual self, maybe it's that God. So let's take a look deeper look into this. So Om is also the sacred sound that is generally known as a sound as the universe. I always tell folks to do a little study, to do a little, to practice this. Find yourselves at some point, so I'm going to give you all homework. Find yourselves at a point either today, tomorrow, you create those possibilities where you can turn everything off. Turn off all of your screens. It is possible. Your phones, your laptops, your, anything that has a screen. Turn off your radio and just listen. Listen to the energy and to the sound around you. And if you're lucky enough, you'll hear this energy, the sound of this vibration, and it's like a humming sound. It's just that. Those of you who've had the opportunity to be at the beach, to be in a forest, to be just in a plot of land where there's no, no buildings, and you're just quiet, you hear this humming. It is the belief and the understanding that this humming sound is the universe making the sound of Om, of all-encompassing sounds, of vibrations that connects the universe into one. So it is this all-encompassing vibration sound that brings everything together. Let's see where it comes from. So when we're looking at scriptures, and we're looking specifically at Indian scriptures, there are three major scriptures that we're going to be taking a look at today, and we're just going to tap right into them. And the more important ones that I want us to look at are, we're going to look at the Upanishads. We're only going to look at one of them because there's 4 of those. But I just want to give you a glimpse of where this is at in these old Indian scriptures. We're also going to take a look at the Bhagavad Gita, which I highly recommend if you have an opportunity to read it. If you have an opportunity to read it, to make sure that you read it with a group of folks. It is so in-depth that it offers such great nutrients to the mind, and there's a lot of philosophical components of it to it. So I encourage you to read it with a group of folks. And then we're going to look at Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, just a glimpse of it. Remember, this is just an introduction. All right, so the Upanishads, there are 4 Upanishads. And in the Upanishads, these are ancient scriptures that have been written during the Veda era. And we find that within these scriptures, within these writings, that we've already started seeing the presence of Om. In the Sraddha Upanishad, we have Om is described here like the fire, which, though potentially present in firewood, it is not seen until 2 sticks rub against each other. It's about the possibilities. It's about to see what is available beyond what your eyes can see, right? So there's that spiritual component, right? Because the understanding here is that you have these 2 sticks of firewood that we know that if they're not combined and if they're not rubbed together, we're not going to see that fire. The understanding is that you, the self, is that fire. It is realized by constant awareness of the symbol of oming, that once we connect those pieces of firewood and we see that fire coming up, that is the potential of connecting with that higher spirit. It is that potential of connecting with that higher energy. So we already start seeing this in one of the Upanishads. There's another Upanishad, which is the Mundakya Upanishad, and they describe Om as Om is the bow, right? And the soul, us, are the arrow. And Brahman, or also known as the absolute or the God, is the target. So we can't just, the understanding is that we as humans can't just connect with that higher power, that we need that vessel, and that the Om is that bow that connects you and that gives you that opportunity to connect with the higher self, with that higher power, with that God, or with that universe. So I bring this up just to give you more of the validity of the description of oming in these ancient writings, that I'm very lucky enough to be alive now to have this, to be learning about this. So in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, so as a yogi, those of you who are yoga instructors, those of you who are journeying through the yoga world, Om is part of our lives, right? We read about it, we experience it. The Patanjali Yoga Sutras are part of the ancient scriptures that we find in India as well. A lot of people, when they think about yoga, they think it's, it's something that just started in the 60s. And actually, people have been practicing yoga from a physical and a spiritual aspect, for over 3,000 years. So here in the Yoga Sutras, Om is like the pranava. It's a Sanskrit word which means both the controller of life force, which is prana, which is the breath, and life giver, which is the infuser of prana. So meaning that you are that vessel that have that opportunity to create those vibrations, to create that sound of oming, to connect. All of these scriptures are all talking about that connection to the higher self, and that you have that power, that I have that power, and that collectively, at any moment in our lives, we can find that connection to that higher power. Oming is just the beginning components of it. Now, the Bhagavad Gita, which I am a huge fan of, when I was introduced to the Bhagavad Gita about 15 years ago, it was extremely overwhelming. And I'm fortunate enough to have read it with so many folks to question it and to understand it, and I'm still learning about it. So the Bhagavad Gita is one of the scriptures that is most, highly regarded in many parts of the world, especially in the Hindu culture. And the Bhagavad Gita takes place, the majority of it takes place, it's about a war, right? And the war is about to start, and it's about taking a pause, and it's about assessing, and it's about understanding, and understanding why we are at this point. And if we go to war, well, what's going to be on the other side? And what is that suffering going to be like? So in the Bhagavad Gita, right before the war, there's this incredible conversation. And Krishna is part of that conversation. And Krishna is believed to be one of the first motivational speakers, actually. Just kind of like Jesus was, just kind of like Buddha was, Gandhi was, and Dr. King. One of these incredible motivational speakers. And Krishna was leading the chariot, and he has this incredible philosophical conversation about this war. But within this conversation, Krishna actually talks about oming. And here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes the meaning of Om is that there's nothing less than the supreme consciousness. That is what's extremely important here. And as a result, there can be nothing greater or a subject more important than Om. That Om is not just the beginning, but it's also the end. It is that energy, it is that vibration that moves us from connecting with the higher self throughout that journey, whatever that journey looks like. So in essence, Om is an ancient mantra that is used in Hinduism and Buddhism, amongst other faiths, of course. In the Hindu tradition, the sound of Om is said to contain the entire universe. Right? So there's that homework that you're all going to do, is sit in true silence to experience that sound or that vibration. You may not get it at first, but just keep practicing, right? Practice, practice, practice. And more importantly, it is this first sound from the beginning of time, whatever that means to you. It also encompasses the present and the future. The present and the future. This present now and the future that we're heading towards. And when we talk about the beginnings, that could be the beginnings for whatever we all truly believe in. Maybe it's the beginnings right when we're born. Maybe it's the beginnings when we first wake up in the morning. Maybe it's the beginnings of time. But what I appreciate about this is that it's very personal. That you can listen to this, you can read these scriptures. Highly recommend the Bhagavad Gita to read the scriptures and just to personalize and see what it means to you. And I think that's what makes me connect to it on a much greater level. All right, so let's look at this oming here. So Om is also a seed syllable. So here you have a mantra, which is Tibetan Sanskrit, which means Om Mani Padme Om. But if you just heard what I just said, Om is the beginning and Om is at the end. Usually when we chant, when we do a mantra, those of us who have gone to yoga concerts, the mantras and the kirtans usually begin with an Om and it ends with the Om, right? So what is said in between is part of that journey. It is part of that understanding of connecting with that higher self. So Om, again, is the beginning syllable. It's also at the end. So think about it as a building block, right? Or, like if you're gonna, those of us who play with Legos, those of us who play with Jengas, you got the bottom part and you got the top part. Well, Om is that. So Om is that structure that holds everything, right? It is that structure that holds the universe. Om chanting is also associated with the experience of vibrations, as we talked about earlier. And these vibrations go through our bodies and go through our chakras. So what we're going to look at now is taking an opportunity to look at more of the scientific component of this and what does it actually mean and some of the health benefits. So this sensation is also transmitted through the auricular branch of the vagus nervous system, of the vagus nerve, right? So that energy, when we Om, when we hear Om, or when we say Om, makes that change in that nerve. Why is that important? Well, Om chanting can produce the deactivation of the limbic brain regions. We are still studying so much about the spiritual components of life. I remember in one of my yoga classes that I was in, it was told to us that science is finally catching up to what we've known about spirituality, that science is finally catching up to vibrations, right? So just until recently that we're realizing that cells actually vibrate, and we're understanding what that vibration looks like and what that vibration makes and how to control that vibration, that everything in life actually vibrates. Well, we've been saying this through the Bhagavad Gita and through the Upanishads. So we're finally catching up to it. So what we're going to be looking at here are just smaller components of what we understand to be true about science. Because until it's scientifically proven, a lot of people are not going to jump on and say, all right, I'm buying this. But just practice it. When we practice it, you'll see, do your own science experiment. So researchers also observed that in the brain activity during the Om periods, that it was similar to that created by the vagus nerve stimulation. So this is used to treat depression and epilepsy and other forms of stress and anxiety, meaning that without medication, and sometimes we do need medication, of course, or in conjunction with medication, that when we Om, when we say that word Om, that it's stimulating that nerve, that it's stimulating the spine or the chakras in our bodies, that it's stimulating those cells to produce ease, to produce a state of tranquility. So we are just now able to see how this vibration and how it acts within the body. What are those positive results that we can actually see and we can actually have? There's a recent study that was done about 2 years ago, 2018, in the Asian Journal of Psychiatry. And in this study, they actually realized that there is a strong connection between Om chanting and relaxation. That there's a strong connection between when we Om and that vibration of Om and how it helps to calm the central nervous system. That it actually helps, and it's proven to show in this study, it's in the references, helps to lower your blood pressure. That it also helps regulate your heart rate. That it also helps to ease with stress and anxiety. After I was diagnosed with PTSD, I quickly went back into my studies of meditation and oming. And I found myself oming throughout the day, oming throughout my life, even in conversations with my family and my friends. And they're like, what is that sound you're making? And I'm like, what sound? And I realized that I actually was oming, that on some level, my body knew that this was good for me and that I would just om naturally. That practice of oming has helped me tremendously in the past 3 years. But we also have to understand that it's not just about oming just once. That kind of like medicine, we got to constantly be putting it into our bodies, that we got to constantly understand what it is. And the great thing about oming is that you don't need a prescription, that it is accessible to you without going to the pharmacy. It's accessible to you at this very moment. So this study in 2018 also looked at how different parts of the brain, when it's overstimulated with stress, when it's overstimulated with anxiety, how it helps with that vibration to deactivate some of those brain regions that have a high vibration. We're not going to have an opportunity to look at the different scales of vibration, but in the PDF form that was emailed to you all today, there is, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, there's a couple of practices that are available for you all of just oming and just listening to that om at different frequencies actually helps you as well. So when we're looking at om, it's not so much about the practice, because you don't have to practice it, but you also can experience it. You know, those of you who go to a yoga class or yoga practice, you might be in a room with folks and you'll have the instructor and some folks that om. You may not be doing the sound of om, but that vibration, because it's connecting with the universe around you, because it is the beginning and the end of all sounds and all vibrations, that you, even though you may not be practicing it, are still feeling those effects of that energy. We know that great, people in nursing homes or people who are differently abled that are not able to move their bodies, but they'll watch people do Tai Chi, and they still get some of those effects by watching people do Tai Chi. So it's part of that energy. Tai Chi is also part of this energy. And a great friend of mine is an incredible instructor and actually competes out in Asia and has taught me a lot about it. If you have an opportunity, go to South Mountain Tai Chi and they just Google it, and great website, great information and great practice. But it's also about that practice, right? It's also about that great energy that you're connecting with. So what we understand through this specific study is that. I will also let you know that besides the study in 2018, Jon Kabat-Zinn was one of the first doctors to actually start doing more studies and doing more research when it comes to meditation. So part of that meditation is oming. So I highly suggest looking to some of Jon Kabat-Zinn's work. His book is one of his books are the books that I'm recommending here for this presentation. But what we need to know is the benefits of oming. So it helps with stress, it helps with anxiety, it helps with your blood pressure, helps regulate your heart rhythm as well. So just wanted to make sure that you're a little bit more aware of that. All right, so scientists have concluded that chanting om may have great potential in the treatment of major depressive disorders. Now, this is not to say that we just have to om and that's it. Western medication is extremely important, but how oming can enhance that. That oming can actually help you throughout your day. Where we're all currently, in 2020, experiencing different stages of anxiety, different stages of stress, and different stages of depression. Having a toolkit in front of you that you can actually go into and experiment to see what helps you out. Om is part of that toolkit that you have. Besides maybe doing some exercise, calling a friend, reading a book, opening up the window, breathing some air. Om is part of that. And Om is accessible to us at any particular moment in our lives. So we've looked at the understanding of where Om comes from, those ancient scriptures, and specifically the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. Highly suggest the Bhagavad Gita. We looked at it from a little bit of a scientific perspective and the vibrations, and actually some of the studies that are currently being done as well. Now let's look at the practice of it, right? As I said earlier, you can be chanting with a group of folks that are also feeling that energy, and it's also that connection with another group when they chant Om. You know, whether it's the beginning of a class or the end of a class, or just gathering folks. You know, we have folks from all over the world that will just Om throughout the day, that they will just stop what they're doing, come together and Om. It's part of their culture. Now, I think it would be a little bit weird for us to be doing that here in the United States, but it doesn't mean that we can't, right? It doesn't mean that we can't just Om and find those elements of Oming. You know, who would have thought that just clapping, you know, would have such great meaning, right? Besides going to a concert or to a sporting event. But now that, you know, we go outside and we clap for those folks that are combating this disease, that are combating this virus, that are helping us move forward as a community and putting their lives at stake for us. Well, Oming is also seen as a sign of gratitude and presenting that energy to another. When you feel those vibrations of chanting, Oming, sometimes you lose the sound of yourself in those vibrations. And that's part of the goal. Part of that goal is connecting with another form of energy, right? Keeping the mind singly focused on just those vibrations, right? Listen, I've been meditating for years and it's still a challenge for me. Right? It's still a challenge to like quiet the mind, quiet that list, quiet what I did before, quiet what I have to do now. But when I chant Om, specifically when I'm teaching a practice or I'm by myself, it's part of that journey to just be focused and to experience those vibrations. All right, so let's practice here. So what we're gonna have here is an opportunity to practice, and I wanna show you also where that energy of Om is actually coming from. So I'm gonna move my chair back a little bit here. And I ask you all to just find an opportunity or find a space right now just to sit. You can actually do this standing up. You can actually do this laying down, whatever is more comfortable for you. But for this practice, I'm going to be sitting, and not even sitting with my legs crossed. It's not about that, right? It's not about doing that whole yoga, what we think that yoga people should look like or what meditation should look like. It's for anybody at any point in their lives. So sitting down with your feet onto the earth. If you're laying down, beautiful. If you're laying down, just make sure that your shoulders are pressing into the earth. If you're sitting down, making sure that your back is up against the back of the chair or a wall. Feel free to bring your hands. We're going to start our hands on our bellies, right? So we're going to be looking at those layers of Om, right? So the A, the U, and the M. And what we're going to have here is that opportunity to connect that energy together and to see where those vibrations come in and throughout our bodies. So we're going to take our hands and put it on our bellies. Yes, I know we're not supposed to have a belly, according to some folks, but in yoga, it's okay. Nobody's seeing you at this time. Bring your hands on your belly, and all we're going to do is we're going to say the sound of ah, right? So we're going to take a deep breath and just say ah. We're going to say ah with our hands on our bellies and see how that feels like. You can keep your eyes open or feel free to keep your eyes closed. So hands on your belly. And as I always tell people, a little smile goes a long way. So let's take a deep inhale and deep exhale. Another deep inhale. This time, let the belly come out. And exhale, allowing the belly to come back in. One last time, take a nice deep breath. Allow the belly to expand. And exhale. All right, let's get ready with the ah. Take a nice deep inhale. Just breathe. Some of you might have been able to feel some of that vibration right in your belly. The less layers that we have here, the more of that vibration that we can feel. I don't feel that much vibration here because I got a nice little padding here, which is all good. But what we do know is that you can actually feel those vibrations. Those vibrations are happening whether you feel it or not. All right, so that's the ah. We're going to do the same thing, but this time bring our hands right onto our chest. Take a nice deep inhale and deep exhale. Nice deep inhale and deep exhale. And this time we're going to say the sound O. Nice deep inhale. Some of you might have felt that vibration, right? So that's ah-o, right? That vibration here of the physical self coming towards the end as we start moving up. So ah-o. Now we're going to bring our hands onto the tops of our heads. Now, this is a little bit easier for me. My advantage here is not having hair, which is great in the situation. So I've got no layers whatsoever. So bring your hands on top of your heads. And if you can, just bring your shoulder blades back, just to open up that heart chakra, to open up some of that energy. Feel free to keep your eyes open or closed. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And then on the 4th one, we'll say the sound just M. So deep breath in, deep breath out, deep breath in, breath out. One more deep breath in, deep breath out. And this time we're going to say the sound of Inhale. The last sound that we're going to have here is the sound of silence. And all we're going to do here is bring our hands up towards the sky. Take a nice deep breath in, deep breath out. Inhale, exhale. One more inhale and exhale. And here we go. Nice sound of silence. Inhale and bring your hands down. So it is the connection of those 3 sounds, plus the 4th, the sound of silence, that moves that vibrations throughout our bodies, affects those incredible nerves that help us with some of the issues that are going on in our lives, that helps us connect with that higher power, with that energy, and find an element of peace. So what we're going to do now is put all of those 4 sounds together. The ah, the o, the and the. We're going to do this 3 times. Feel free to bring your hands onto your knees, or if you're laying on your back, arms along your side. You can actually even fold your, fold your hands if that's more comfortable for you. Feel free to have your eyes open. I encourage you to close your eyes or bring your eyes to a nice soft gaze. This way you can just feel whatever that is and maybe visualize whatever that is that's going on through your bodies. All right, so let's take a nice deep inhale and deep exhale. Another deep inhale and exhale. One more inhale and exhale. And now with the next exhale, we're going to start our chants of Om, 3 ohms. Inhale. Slowly open your eyes. Taking a few breaths here just to be mindful of what you just experienced. Be mindful of what you just saw, what you just felt. Thank you so very much. All right, so I think at this point we have an opportunity, a few minutes, to look at questions. If you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer. But just to bring this together, it is that energy that you can all experience at any point in your lives. That it's an energy that you could access at any point. Whether if it's just to Om for fun, whether it's to Om for a spiritual practice, whether if it's an Om to experiment, to see how those vibrations affect your being and affect your body and affect yourself. So we'll open it up right now to a couple of questions, and then we'll move forward from here.
Hi, everyone. Jhon, I don't know about you and everyone else, but I'm very relaxed right now. So thank
Okay.
you so much for going through those practice with us. Jhon is open for some questions. So if you have any questions that you would like to pose to Jhon, please feel free to enter them into the questions pane, which should be on the right side of your screen. So Jhon, one of the questions that popped up today is if someone is new to this and they want to bring Om into their routine, how often should they be doing this? How long should their practice be? Do you have any tips and tricks on how to ease people into this to make it more of a constant routine in their daily life?
Absolutely, that's an awesome question. It reminds me of the story of when somebody says that they ask a guru, and they're like, Guru, I don't have time to meditate. I can't make time to meditate. I can't make time to Om. What do I do? He's like, you don't have time? And they're like, no, I just don't have time. I'm busy. I've got a family. I've got friends. I've got, kids. I've got work. And the guru says to them, make more time. And he's like, how long are you oming for? How long are you meditating for? And the person says, I can only om for 10 minutes. So the guru says, om for a half hour. So that is a beautiful question, which I appreciate and I love. And there is, I will begin by saying there's no right way and no wrong way. It's finding those moments for you within our busy lives, especially now during this time. And don't set yourself up for success. My suggestion is this: wake up, try not to look at your screen. Try not to look at the news. and just wake up if you can, whether you're laying in your bed or sitting in your bed. Just close your eyes and just start off your day by oming 3 times. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, do it in the bathroom. Do it in your living room. Do it in a place where you are by yourself if you can, or you feel comfortable. And just start off your days like that. And then I would say move it to starting off your days by oming 3 times and just sitting in silence, and sitting in silence perhaps for 1 minute. Just start off 1 minute. Some of us forget how long a minute is. And as a huge Mr. Rogers fan, there was one episode where he actually took a timer and just timed 1 minute and did nothing and said nothing. Start off with a minute and then go from there. My next phase is to tell you is to end, my suggestion is to end your day that way. Before you go to sleep, after you brush your teeth, or after you do your routine, is find that moment just to do 3 ohms and sit, stand, lay in silence for 1 minute. And then add another minute later on. And then later on, add another minute. And then see in your days, as perhaps you can do it during lunch or during the middle of the day, but slowly start adding this, and you'll see within yourself and you'll feel within yourself those changes. And I promise you, folks around you will tell you, you look different. Did you get a tan? You look happy. Did you lose weight? Did you cut your hair? Did you shave your head? Right? So it's finding those small components to start bringing some of this in, whether that's oming, whether that's meditation, whether that's just sitting in silence. The idea is to be singularly focused on one point, which is the breath or which is silence. Practice, practice, practice. 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute at night, and start adding on to it. And you might realize that, wow, I want to do this for more than 5 minutes. I want to do this for more than 10 minutes. And some people, do this for 20 minutes. Some people do this for 2 hours. Depends on what your lifestyle is and what's more comfortable for you. But I think 1 minute a day, I think we all can spare 1 minute a day. And whether it's finding that space. The other thing about that question that I appreciate is making sure that you include it as part of your routine. What is your routine? From brushing your teeth, washing your face, being in the moment, cooking, find those moments. And even if it's 1 minute's too much, 30 seconds. But it's about starting to experiment with that and finding different ways to bring this into your lives. So I really do appreciate that question. Thank you.
No, great. Thank you so much. So during the practice, Jhon, you were talking a lot about hand positions and the way we can seat ourselves or lay and things like that. Can you just go over those hand placements again, especially for the A and O?
Yeah. So for the hand placements on the body is mostly for those vibrations, right? Just so you can feel those vibrations. So if we take our hands and put it on our bellies, we can feel the vibration of the ah, right? That is the beginning of the physical self. We didn't talk about chakras today, but our chakras align our spine, right? All the way to the tops of our heads and all the way down. And those vibrations that I was talking about with the nerves, with the vagus nerves, is that it also connects with the chakras. Right? We're just starting to make those connections with chakras and nerves, but that's a different discussion. So if we take our hands, bring it on our bellies, we begin to feel the beginnings of the ah, right? We begin to feel the beginnings of those first layers of the chakras that are lighting our bodies, right? Our spines, more specifically. So that's the ah. The O is right here up on our chest. And some of us will really truly feel that vibration right here, right? So just bring your hands onto your chest. You'll feel that vibration. So the vibration, once we do all three of them, go from the bottom, the very bottom, all the way up through the top, through the crown of our heads, up towards the heavens, which brings us to the third one, which is the sound of which is that energy starting to leave our bodies, starting to leave our physical selves to connect with a higher power or with the universe. So hands on top of your heads here, bringing your shoulder blades back. You'll feel that vibration on top of your heads. And then the last one, which is the sound of silence, bringing your hands out to the side. It is allowing that energy to go not just into the universe, but allowing the universe energy to come into you. So it works both ways, right? It is the connection with the universe that we're looking to do, the connection with that humming, with that oming of the sound that the planet actually makes. And when you're meditating, which we just started to touch upon that, all you need to do is bring your hands on top of your knees, palms down or palms up. Some people are more comfortable crossing their fingers. What feels best for me is bringing my hands here and bringing my thumbs together and my pointer fingers out. And some people also like a little mudra. And if you actually just like Google mudras, there's different specific mudras that bring different, that channels different energies. But once again, that energy of meditation is not so much that we have to do A, B, and C, and D. One of my gurus, the Dalai Lama, once said, meditation is also being singularly focused. So when you're washing your dishes, those of you who wash dishes, are you really washing dishes, or are you thinking about the meal? What went well? What do you have to do next? What do you have to do at work? The Dalai Lama talks about when you're washing the dishes to actually feel and be conscious of the water on your hands, the soap suds, the dish, the plates, to be focused on what you're doing, not where you've been and not where you're going. So many of us live in the past because we're trying to fix that, and we're trying to predict a future, and very little times are we actually in the present moment. So the vibration of Om, the practice of meditation, is about a practice about being and fully committed to your life in the present moment. This moment that we have. One of the things that we say a lot, or that I say a lot, is this is the most important moment of your life. People say, well, no, my wedding was, or when I got my first job, that's in the past. You already passed with that. This moment, make it the most important moment of your life, whatever that means. And then we go to the next moment, and then the next moment. One Om at a time. And I tell people, and I'll leave you with this, and if there's more questions, that would be great. I think we have a little bit of time. But when in doubt, Om it out. When in doubt, Om it out. Find those moments to leave the argument, to leave the work, to leave the computer, to leave your phone, and just Om. And just Om. And see how that changes not just your physical self, your psyche, and dare I say, the vibrations. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Jhon. So we're going to take one more question, and I'm so sorry that we're not able to get to everyone's. We just want to be mindful of everyone's time. So the last question, Jhon, is how can you encourage others to meditate, especially based off of all the amazing benefits that you talked about? The people that we're trying to encourage, maybe people who might be resistant and might be suffering from depression and anxiety. So do you have any advice on how to encourage these people?
Yeah, that is such a beautiful question. I truly appreciate that. It's about, for the first thing that I like to do is know your audience. Who are you talking to? And who do you want to help? It's not about who do you want to convince or push towards, but who do you want to offer this opportunity and this possibility that is available for everyone. I've got friends that the best way for me to communicate with them is through talking about science, right? That's how their mind works, right? So then I have to talk about some of these studies and talk about Jon Kabat-Zinn and the study in 2018, and that'll be my vehicle to reach them. There's some friends that are more, oh, well, this is too religious for me. Well, actually Om is not religious at all. It is, there's no doctrine to it. It's just the sound of vibration. So I then talk about cells, and I talk about, you can do this now, bring your hands together and rub them together really, really fast, and then let them go. And you'll feel that space and that energy between your hands, right? So that energy and that space in between your hands kind of feels like magnets. I do this with kids and my nephews, but don't tell my brother. And I just play with that magnet, and everybody feels that. That's my beginnings of talking about vibration. So that is my vehicle for them. For me, also, what helps is that I talk about my own personal stories a little bit more in depth and let people know about the journey that I've been and how oming has helped me. So the question here is that there's no one right way. It's just finding different ways to bring this practice to folks. In the resources that I gave you and that you'll have that was emailed to you, there are a couple of YouTube. I found some, what I use a lot is some YouTube channels. There's some hour-long people of oming. And I would just even play some of that, not just for yourselves, but for your friends, and just say, hey, give me 1 minute of your time, and I just want to see how you feel after listening to this, and experiment with that. Also talking about the benefits. We laid out some of the, a little bit of the benefits here, but Jon Kabat-Zinn has some great resources also and some great research about meditation. So those are the different ways that I would bring folks and talk about meditation and talk about oming. I would leave out, oh, you got to cross your hands like this, and you got to put your hands here, you got to put your hands up here. That usually kind of like scares folks. So I try to bring it to the lowest common denominator of it's just vibration. It's just sound. And sometimes, when I'm driving by myself or driving with folks, or I'm with folks, I don't realize that I actually start oming. And that's a different story, but just when in doubt, om it out. So those are some of the ways that I'd start to work on bringing some of this om and some of the beginnings of meditation to our friends and loved ones or people who we work with. And I always tell people, just experiment. Give me 1 minute and see how this feels and how this incorporates into your body. So thank you for that question. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. And I also love this phrase, ohm it out. I'm going to use that more in my day-to-day now. I know that we
Absolutely.
didn't get to everyone's questions, and I'm so sorry about that. But John has generously put his contact information on the screen. So if we didn't get to your question or you have some follow-up questions, please feel free to contact John. And John, I just want to give you a huge thank you for taking the time to share your expertise with the TC community. As you may know, Teachers College is planning more digital events in the near future, so please stay tuned to your emails from Teachers College, Alumni Relations, and our social media channels. You will be receiving a link to this video recording, as well as the handout and John's contact information in a follow-up email. And the video of this recording will also be available on our website. We hope that you can join us in our next event, which is called Job Search Tips Amid COVID-19 with alumnus Bernardo Tirado on Thursday, May 7th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful day.